So as many of you guys probably know, I'm a massive Richmond Tigers fan. I think that's an understatement. I absolutely bleed yellow and black. I've gone for them ever since I was a little kid. I would literally give my left nut up for Dustin Martin if he asked for it, which he probably never will, but maybe one day if he did, I would potentially do it. But obviously, I'm a massive Richmond fan, and I love to make Richmond videos on YouTube. And I feel like there are definitely a couple of established channels, myself included out there, who like to make Richmond content. But of course, there's a couple out there who make exclusive Richmond content and don't talk about really any other teams. And one of them that I think actually does a very good job, just in the video or two I've watched of them, does actually happen to be the Big Footy Tiger Cast channel, which some of you guys have commented saying I should collaborate with. And again, it could definitely be something we should do maybe down in the future. But they actually made a video which I wanted to furthermore elaborate on and give my thoughts and opinions on, because I thought it was very, very interesting. Now, they actually have like this live show podcast thing that they do where they, of course, answer some questions, give out some news that they've heard. Again, there's some of the guys that they have on their channel who reportedly have some potential Richmond insides here and there. Inside scoops, that is. I'm not trying to talk about their insides. That'd be a weird ass thing to talk about. But yeah, some of them seem to be pretty credible, and they go on to talk about a lot of really interesting things. And one of the topics they actually talked about the other day was potential free agents that Richmond will be looking at in 2025. Again, for those of you who don't know, this year in 2025, Richmond are probably going to have some of the most salary cap space we have nearly ever seen in the AFL. Again, in 2024, Richmond had Dustin Martin's contract expire, which was the highest paid contract in the AFL on about $1.5 million. They also traded away Shea Bolton, who was the, I think, 6th highest paid player on $1.1 million. So that, frees up about $2.6 million. They also didn't re-sign Baker. They moved on Rowell, moved on Graham, all of the above. So they moved on from all of those guys. And of course, they would have just being like, well, who do we give the money to? We have to actually fill out the salary cap. So you got guys like, Noah Bolter and whatnot, who are probably really, really highly ended salary-wise on their first year of their new contract. But in saying that, they've probably got about $3 million or so of really flexible money to use. And that's not even talking about Tom Lynch's contract expiring this year, who's on about $1.6 million. I think he's the highest paid player of 2025. Dion Prestia is apparently still on like 700, 800, I think. That will be expiring. They've got a ton of salary cap to use. So they're going to be going after a lot of really, really big free agents. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to bring in a couple for 2026. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Some of the free agents that the Tiger Cast channel, of course, talked about, and my thoughts and opinions on whether or not we should get them, or would they come to us type thing. Again, there's still a decent amount of you guys who watch these videos who have not yet subscribed to the channel. So if you could do me a massive favor and leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel for all the latest sports content news. Even go check out the Big Footy Tiger Cast channel, because yeah, they do some good content and they inspired this video. But I guess without further ado, let's get straight into it. So the first free agent I wanted to talk about, and a guy who I think Richmond could probably be the most likely, I think, to get, does happen to be Tom De Koning from Carlton. Of course, De Koning is going to be a free agent ruckman who I think is heading into his prime and could become a top 5 ruckman in the AFL in 2025. Again, it has been reported he has said that he wants to stay at Carlton and wants to, he's actually talking with Carlton right now on a new contract. But I genuinely believe with Richmond seeing Nankervis, start to go into his 30s now, probably going to be regressing a little bit, I genuinely believe they are really going to be targeting getting a new ruckman, this off-season, whether that's a young guy to develop behind Nank for a couple years, or a guy like Tom De Koning, who is going to absolutely be looking for a payday. Now, Carlton's salary cap right now is about as tight as... Well, I don't think I can say that on YouTube without getting demonetized, but it's very, very tight. And you've got a guy like Tom De Koning, who is absolutely going to be entering his prime, going to be, I think, 100% a top 5 ruckman this year. Hopefully for him, even pushes for All-Australian, who's going to be looking for a massive payday. And even though I know he loves it at Carlton, I just don't think that the Carlton Blues are going to be able to afford him. So I think that's where Richmond come into play, and they're definitely going to have to give him more than 5 years. The average contract of bringing a player nowadays is like 6 to 7 years, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers did that. You also got to look at the fact that Richmond are going to have a ton of salary caps, even though a guy like De Koning, who absolutely loves Carlton and wouldn't want to go into a rebuilding phase again with a team, is probably going to be getting an offer from Richmond, which is going to be like 900,000 plus. A deal that he's just, I don't think, going to be able to refuse. I don't think Carlton are even going to be able to match it. They're not going to be able to even think about it. And I think De Koning would be an absolutely perfect fit. If the Tigers can bring in a lot of these good young players through the draft, bring in good free agents, they might not be in this rebuild phase for as long as a guy like Tom De Koning actually thinks they would be. And not just that, I think that he and Nate can actually coexist in the same team. We've seen Nate coexist with Ivan Soldo, and De Koning definitely can go down and play a lot better of a forward role than what Ivan Soldo can. So we could literally be seeing the Tigers roll with a double ruckman in 2026 if they do get De Koning. Again, another guy who was spoken about on the channel does happen to be Matt Rowell. Again, I've talked about this before. Matt Rowell has gotten interest, I believe, from Collingwood and Hawthorn, and a lot of Victorian teams are really trying to get him, not just because they think that they could get him, because it's Gold Coast and a lot of players leave Gold Coast, but I think a lot of teams are looking at the Gold Coast Suns right now who haven't exactly been too hyped on how Matt Rowell has progressed as a player. And they're probably thinking, look, the Suns are going to be absolutely stacked in a year or two through the midfield. They're not going to be wanting to overpay to keep a guy like Matt Rowell when you've already got Anderson, who's a better player than him. Zeke Uland will probably overtake him eventually when he gets drafted because, again, he's like the number 1 prospect of 2025. Some people believe even Tuke Miller's better than him. A couple other players here and there will probably start to come through, and even though they might not be better than Matt Rowell or ever become better than Matt Rowell, the Gold Coast Suns don't want to be paying Matt Rowell a ton of money and get tied up in the same mistakes that they always have, where they pay a guy for a long-term deal just because a Victorian team wanted him, so now they have to overpay. Again, I do think Richmond will be interested, although I don't think we should go after Matt Rowell. Don't get me wrong, I like Matt Rowell as a player, but I definitely think there are so many better midfielders out there, and the Tigers are already very one-dimensional in that midfield right now. To me, I would rather throw a crap ton of money at a guy like Harley Reid, who, even though you're probably not going to be able to get, that would be awesome. Throw a crap ton of money at a guy like Zach Butters, etc., etc. Players who can play different type of midfield roles, also play different positional roles, instead of Matt Rowell, who's just that typical inside contested clearance inside midfielder. A guy like Harley Reid who could push forward, or a guy like Zach Butters who can play on the outside and I think is much more clean, would be a better option in my opinion than Matt Rowell for the Tigers. Again, on that, the guy I just mentioned earlier, Harley Reid. He's not a free agent in 2025, but as we know, sometimes rookie contracts absolutely mean nothing, and you could basically say this dude's a free agent if he doesn't end up putting pen to paper with West Coast. Again, I'll say it as nice as I think I can. I'm pretty sure Harley Reid's going to re-sign with West Coast, and I think he's going to re-sign on like probably 10 years, 20 million. It'll be like the highest paid deal. Again, what that guy did in his first year was absolutely insane. The explosiveness of him is crazy, and I think in a couple years, this guy's going to be one of the best players in the AFL, and I wouldn't be surprised even if in 2025 he takes a massive step and starts to average like 21 disposals, 22 disposals, and kicks over a goal a game. Really be that hybrid midfield forward, and then one day he does the 26 disposals and a goal a game, which is like the Brownlow contention. I wouldn't even be surprised. But considering he's from Victoria and he still hasn't re-signed that long-term deal just yet, we got to talk about him because there is apparently a lot of interest there by Richmond. And realistically, Yeah, he would fit in Richmond's midfield. He'd fit in any midfield. The crazy thing is, not only is he good contested inside player who can kick a goal, but no one talks about this man having insane speed, insane burst, lateral quickness. This dude's a fast guy. I mean, he can absolutely, bolt away from packs. The Tigers need some speed in their midfield. They also need some class. Again, they added Lawler in, who's a very classy player, can use the ball well. Another guy like Harley Reid, even if you have to pay him so much money, would be awesome. But again, I think the Tigers should focus on that this year. Let's get all the picks done first and whatnot. 2026, I think, is the year that Richmond should maybe start looking at Harley Reid. I think Essendon will go for him, but I think he'll also re-sign with West Coast. So, wouldn't be surprised. The other guy they also talked about on the Tiger Cast channel, which I think is a free agent pretty soon, at the end of the year maybe, does happen to be Kai Lohmann. Again, he became one of the better forwards in the AFL this year, really dominated in the grand final. Considering the Tigers have probably the weakest forward line in the AFL, the youngest forward line in the AFL, it'd be awesome to add a guy who can kick goals, put decent pressure on. He's a good marking option as well down there. Just a really good complete player for his height and size. I would absolutely love Kai Lohmann of the team, and if he has a year this year where he kicks like 31 goals or 30 goals, just over a goal a game, when you think about it, that would have been easily Richmond's leading goal kicker last year. That would probably be Richmond's leading goal kicker this year. I think it would be awesome to offer him like a 5-year deal. Get him to the team if you can. Again, I think he's going to love it in Brisbane though, and he just won a premiership with them, so I don't think he'll be leaving. But wouldn't that be a great option to probably go and get as well? Again, if you haven't already, let me know all your thoughts and opinions down below on all of these players. Do you guys think the Tigers are a chance for any of them at all? Again, I'd very much like to know. Subscribe to my, gaming channels, my IRL/Long channel, and this channel for all latest sports content and news. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.